Welcome back to Up the Villa podcast. And we're having a bit of a transfer special. We're going to have an in-depth look at the whole transfer window. You'll have seen me doing transfer hubs, rumours, targets, etc. But I think it's important that we all have a sit-down discussion about what the objective is. What do we need? What direction are we going in? Who's coming in? Who's leaving? What loan players that are coming back to Villa maybe have a future. So we're going to have a look at what we expect from the whole window. I'd love you guys at home to offer your thoughts of what you expect, etc., on the general topics that we discuss on this episode. So get involved, get interactive, drop this video a like. Let's have 700 likes. Let's go 700 likes on this video. So let's kick it off then. First question. What do we think the window has in store for Aston Villa? And I'll just paint a little bit of a picture before I hand it over to one of either Justin or Ryan. So, what does this window have in store? I think we need to understand what the objective is first for next season. Like, what are we trying to do? Because last season, you'll have seen our season predictions. We were kind of predicting that we were going for Europa Conference. The season coming up is kind of a big one because we've got a bit of a juggling act to do, haven't we? Which it's an unknown territory for us fans to be looking at, because we're looking at juggling a European campaign with a Premier League campaign. We obviously don't want to end up like West Ham, whereas their season literally falls apart and they've only got Europe and they have an absolute shocker. So it's important that, for me, this European campaign does not affect the Premier League campaign whatsoever, because I think the main objective for me still is to still get in those European positions next season, because we still want to establish ourselves as a European Villa footballing side. So I don't really want cup competitions to have a negative effect on that league position. So that's the one thing that I think we need to be wary of and plan for. We'll go with Justin. What's the window got in store, and then what's your vibe on what I just said?
Oh, it's a massive window, isn't it? Probably the biggest, once again, the biggest window we are facing. And I agree. I think there's a lot of talking I think has been done towards the end of the season. I think as soon as we started pushing seriously for European positions, I think the club are in such a good position off the pitch with people that run the club that they would have been having a lot of discussions running up to the end of the season of where we need to be attacking in the transfer window. Unai Emery, as we know, is a phenomenally detailed manager on the pitch, and I think he's exactly the same off it. I think he will be. He would have already probably even known exactly what he wanted to add to this squad, where he wants to be come kick-off next season. And we've seen that already with the surprising departure for me personally, for Ashley Young, But I think with a bit of thinking about it over the last few days, I think personally it is the right thing to do. We can't carry anyone now, and at 38 and with us more than likely bringing another right back in, it was a decision that had to be made, and he's made it. You can't have that much sentiment.
Justin, what's your thoughts on some people saying it's a mistake?
No, not really. I at first, when I first heard it break, I was very, very disappointed and I was upset. He's been such an amazing asset to us for the last 2 seasons. The only mistake, if you like, and I don't think it is his off-field attributions he brings to the squad and in the dressing room and all that. And yes, it's fantastic to have a player of his experience in and around the club, but we don't need to be paying a cheerleader, do we? And he has to add value to the squad, and he has to be able to play a role on the pitch, which he's done fantastically this season. Nobody can deny that Ashley Young hasn't been absolutely phenomenal for us this season, but we knew we were light on a right back. At the start of last season, I was thinking Kessler Hayden would come in and be the challenging right back. That never materialised, and with Matty Cash's injuries. Young's had a phenomenal season, really, but we will definitely be signing at least one top right back. So is he going to play much next season? I don't think so. So it had to be a decision made. He's not on peanuts at Villa. I would imagine he's on a reasonable wage. So these things have to be looked at and discussed through. And I think in the cold light of day, I think it was the right decision. As I say, he's 38 soon. I think he'll do great for wherever he goes for a season or two, but I think his time at Villa was ultimately done. So transfer wise, we have to use that as the barometer going forward of what we are going to do as a club, and ultimately we want to be challenging for those top 4 positions very soon, if not next season, definitely the season after. And the manager will know 100% what he wants to do this summer to get us as close to that as possible and to keep developing this squad going forward. And with all the best will in the world, a 38-year-old doesn't develop your squad over the next 2 or 3 seasons, doesn't it? So, yes, the heart attachment to Ashley Young is gutting, but the head attachment has to come first, I think, with footballing decisions. And I think it was the right one. So this summer window, huge one for us.
Yeah. Ryan, how are you feeling about the window?
Yes, excited. Like Justin's just touched on there. It's our biggest one again, isn't it? Every window just seems to get bigger and bigger now. If we didn't go on this run and get into Europe, season would have been Europe, wouldn't it? We would be looking at a European position. So I think that window and everything we probably prepared for in the closing months of the season is aimed at a push for Europe. And we've got to now get a continuity of qualification in European competitions from the Premier League. We've got a seventh place has got to be the marker for us now. It's difficult. It's really difficult to say we do that. There's some big clubs in this division, but we're ambitious now. Where we want to go to is where them big clubs are, and these big clubs qualify for Europe time and time again. And there's been so much talk of like us being seeded and not seeded. For me, we shouldn't be anywhere near being seeded in a European competition. We haven't played European football for 13 years. So that don't bother me. I think whoever we draw in that playoff, we're going to be bang up for it. And we play against top opposition week in, week out in the Premier League. So a playoff game doesn't really bother me. But it's for now, it's building on that 7th place and maintaining a Premier League push, as well as negotiating additional games. Because look, what did we play? 2 in the League Cup. So we're talking 41 games. We played 41 games last season. Now that's substantially going to go up. If we do get into the group stage, there's another 6 there, plus your 2 playoffs. That's 8 games a minimum there if you do your playoffs. And we want to go deeper in the competition. So I think what we've got to look at is the modelling of this squad. We need experience. We've got a great spine. We've got some, Mings and McGinn, Martinez, Dougie Luiz. They all showed their qualities in this running and showed what leaders they are. And yes, we lost Ashley Young, who's a great leader off the pitch, but there's so many leaders in this squad that, we can cover that. And we've just got to get that balance of youth now. If we do qualify, the youth have got potential to play in these competitions, especially the League Cup as well. So we're gonna really mold this squad with right balance.
Yeah. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at the first team. So the generic first 11. Then we're going to move on to the bench. We're going to have a chat about the bench. And then we're going to have a chat about the youth players. So the first 11, which I'm thinking everybody could generically tend to pick in their head. Martinez, Moreno, Mings, Konsa, Cash, Dougie, Kamara, Ramsey, McGinn, Watkins, Bailey or Buendia. That's our solid base, isn't it? That's what we're going into at the moment, the next season, currently with, which I think has done remarkably well. And I did a couple of episodes. I did a Tierney one, And a lot of fans were like, well, we can't go into a season with like three left backs, which I wouldn't really see being the case. But my general overriding feeling at the minute is that we do not know from that first 11 there which players Unai Emery 100% rates. Do we? We just know he's been working with what he's got. Do you know what I mean? So what's our vibe currently on the squad? Do we feel like Emery will sign certain players to move some first teamers into the bench? Is that a vibe, or do we think we're pretty strong?
I think it's got to be the task of bringing players in that can slot straight into the first 11, at least of equal quality to what we've got. Has to be of equal quality or better. I don't really. Although we might slip a few younger players in, a bit like the Duran signing, I suppose, players that they see future improvement in. But I think overall, we definitely need to add top quality, to sustain any kind of good season next year, as we've seen with clubs that have qualified for Europe. You have to have a real depth of quality in every position, and we currently haven't got that. We've got a lot of players out on loan that are going to be disappearing. He's already released Young and Sear, who are out of contract. We've got players with 1 year left on the contract. Traore, Nakamba, Davis. I see all them going. There's going to be a lot of players that are out on loan that are going. I think Young, Steer, Traore, Nakamba, Davis, Wesley, Sanson, House and Olsen for me, I would count of all that. So that strips your first team squad down to probably the base of what you're going to work from then with your signings. I don't see him really getting rid of a lot of the other first teamers we've got. By that, I mean the fringe players like Chambers, Dendoncker, even Coutinho potentially. I think I could see staying around because you don't want to be in that realm of going to have to sign 10 players. I don't see that as a clever move. I think we've got to keep the base of the general squad that we've got because of the amount of games we've got, and then add to that quality. In like you say, we've now got one right back. We have to bring a right back in. I don't really see a necessity to bring in another left back unless Moreno's injuries is worse than we think. I think Luca Dean's proved in the last couple of games that he's stepped his game up and he knows what he wants from that. So I don't see that happening. We've got 4 centre halves if you count Chambers. I think maybe one there. We've got a decent set of midfielders at the moment. Louise, McGinn, Dendoncker, Ramsey and Kamara. I think that needs enhancing with players of quality. Again, top quality. Attacking midfield is where I think, and up front are the real key areas for me. At the moment, we've got Coutinho, Buendia, Bailey, if we let Traore go. So there's 1 or 2 needed there, minimum. And up top, we're very light. What do we do with Duran? Do we send him out on loan to get a bit of experience in the English game and sign at least 2 forwards? Or do we keep him around as a 3rd or 4th choice forward? And then as we're going to go on to now, what you do with the kids, Archer, Rabunam, Bidace, Ramsey, Aaron Ramsey, sorry. So there's lots of things to take into account this summer to give us the best possible chance of going on all fronts. He wants to be successful in the cup competitions, and ultimately we're not going to win the league next year. And we've got a decent chance of winning a cup, in my opinion, with a decent squad. So lots of things to think about. But yeah, I think we definitely need to improve in certain positions, and I think it has to be top quality for me.
Yeah. What are you saying, Ryan?
Yes, fully agree with Justin. I think we're looking every department, all 4 departments. I think we need maybe not even 1, maybe 2, possibly 2 backup goalkeepers to put a bit of pressure on Martinez to train week in, week out with him. You look at the likes of United, they've got their Butlands and the Heatons, and even Man City have got their Carsons, and I think we've got to be wary for European registration as well, to have a certain amount of English players and youth players as well. So I think we do win this playoff game, then I think it's about 4 academy players need to be in that squad for the European registration. So I think it will. I think with the loan signings, I think if we do qualify for the group stage, then a decision will be made on these type of players: your Archers, your Aaron Ramseys, Irabunans, Badice, who's pretty much gone under the radar this season. I really like him. I think he offers something different to everybody else that I've seen. Like his wide play, which Bailey's been doing. I think he can come in and really progress under Unai Emery.
Finn Azaz as well. He's another one.
Finn Azaz, yeah. So they're all going to get their opportunity this summer. And if Emery likes what he sees and he can mould them, he's an architect, isn't he? He'll construct a player out of them and get the best out of them. So they've got to be coming back to Villa Park thinking, crikey, what an opportunity this is for me, like to real get an education off Emery and get into this Villa team and into this squad, because it is a squad game. And I think we reeled off 11, 12 players there as our base, but I think we're going to add about 5 or 6, and it is a squad game. It was Bailey, wasn't it, that said in that interview that players don't mind sort of starting on the bench because they know that they're part of the match day and that they're going to play a role. Defensively, I agree with you, Justin. I think Luca Dean coming at the end of the season when Emery's tactics was settled, really, and I think that's the first opportunity he had to show himself in a settled tactical setup, and he done really well. I think right back's the one for me. I think you're going to be looking at a versatile right back, one that can slot into a back three. We've seen it at Wolves away, didn't we, when Carlos come on and we sort of went to a back three. He played it at Villarreal, so I think that's a position we're going to be looking at upgrading. Midfield, I always remember when I went to Old Trafford this season and Kamara was missing, McGinn dropped back into the double pivot, and we just lost a bit of bite. And I was just looking at that thinking, when a Guendouzi's type of player, a bit more all-action midfielder in that midfield, I think that's what we sort of look at as well. You two went to West Ham away, and I remember your match reaction, and you was just screaming out for a wide player, so maybe someone of like a Harvey Barnes ilk type of player as well. And then the forward line, we've been linked with a lot of profile players, your Ferran Torres's, the lad that's going to Paris Saint-Germain, the Portuguese lad that you done the transfer hub on the other day, Luke. They're all fitting a similar type of mould. A bit deep line, a bit creative, eye for a goal, can link up with Ali. So I think we're looking more of that midfield link up to the striker role. So yes, I think there's going to be a lot going on this summer, and I expect our transfer record to be broken once, if not twice, because where you're looking at that in attacking midfielders, that's top end, and that's a very, very expensive market, and I think that's where we're spending most of our moolah.
Yeah, I think when I look at the bench compared to the first team now, I see quite a few players that you'd technically say can do a job, and I think we need more than that now going into like next season, especially like in Europe. Like if I reel off the standard bench, you've heard what I said the standard first team was. So the standard bench is Sinisalo, Olsen, Dendoncker, Chambers, Luca Dino Moreno, Coutinho, Buendia or Bailey, Duran, Traore, and Carlos. When you're sort of changing the game, or maybe if we've got first teamers that are injured, it's not as such like for like, is it? So I think, like what we're saying, by improving and bringing in a better caliber of player, say, for example, I've got this graphic here now that I've done. So this is the area of the team that, for me, are areas where I think we need to bring players into. And I think we'll have a better balanced squad. So the double pivot is gone, because I think if you've got Luiz and Kamara, you've then also got a Chambers or a Dendoncker. So you've got technically 4 players that could play in that role. You've also got Dendoncker and Chambers who, if we're winning 1-0, it's getting late into a game, you bring Dendoncker or Chambers on, that can see the game out, can't they? So I've took those out of it. I think centre-backs, you've got Mings, you've got Consat, and you've got Carlos, which is quite a lot of cover. But then also, I could see us maybe signing another centre-back if we change the right-back role. So we could, like Ryan alluded to, like we went at Wolves, we could play a centre-back at right-back because we know we play with that 3 and then the left back goes further forward. Then for me, this top end of the pitch is where I would like to see us be very, very active in this window. So I'm talking another player in this Jacob Ramsey role, another player in this John McGinn role, another player in this wide position that can either play as a winger like a Nico Williams, another striker. I think we desperately need another striker because, I think we need 2, not big strikers, but a different type of striker to Watkins. And I think if we're going into this European campaign, we're going to need to alternate that front line. But for me, if I could say 3 players, definitely I'd want to bring in, it's 1 in this position, 1 in this position, and 1 in that position. That's where I think is important. And I think this one for me is probably my most important one, I think, because although Jacob Ramsey plays there, I think this is quite a specialised position because when this left back here goes bombing on forward, this is an area where we need to be like really, really strong. And there's a couple of games that I go back to and I look at United away. I thought our midfield was completely run over. The back end of the Liverpool game at Anfield, I think next season we're going to look to not have those, how that game panned out. Do you know what I mean? Where we were totally under the cosh and we're hanging on for dear life. I think if we've got more solid midfielders in there, that can offer that little bit more. City away, Brentford away, where they played really well and we did struggle in that game. Just those type of games I can see with players in these areas really helping out the team a lot more. And especially West Ham away, we were crying out for that winger there. So that's where I've highlighted the positions that I would like us to improve. Does anyone want to add anything or maybe interrupt what I'm saying?
I wrote down after looking at the squad and what I was left with at the end of it that 6 or 8 in. Now I went with definitely another keeper, definitely another right back because we're short.
Yeah.
A centre back if Chambers goes. I think if we can get a better centre back than Chambers, then I think they would let him go. But if he's happy with the 4, then we can leave that position. I would personally bring another centre midfielder in that can play in the 6. A player like a Guendouzi that can play in that role also in other positions if we can get one. And then the big area is, like you've just highlighted there, 2 wingers / 10s that can play across the front 3 in behind or in that off the striker role. And potentially 2 strikers, depending on what he wants to do with Duran. He looked a bit... he just looked a bit green, didn't he, at the end of last season? And I'm not sure he's quite ready to be the backup. Now, if he's happy to go with Watkins and then really other top striker and have Duran as the 3rd choice and then keep, say, an Archer around to supplement it, then that could be the way to go. But if he wants to let Duran go out and have a season on loan somewhere, and then I think it's 2 strikers for me. So it's 6 or 8, depending on what he wants to do with Chambers or Duran. That's the way I saw it. I know we'll go into who we think in a minute, but as a signing package, 6 players minimum, 8 depending on Chambers and Duran.
Yeah, Ryan, what are you thinking?
Yeah, versatility as well. I'm looking at that. You need to sign players that, we're looking at a striker. Can you play as a 2? Can that other striker play off Watkins? Can he replace Watkins and we still maintain a threat? So, and also the midfield, like Guendouzi sort of ticks all the boxes, that type of profile of a player, because you could see him anywhere in that midfield 4. You put him in the wide positions where they're tuck in and he can make an impact there.
Yeah, I see him there, I do.
Yeah.
This is where I see Guendouzi.
Yeah. And we know what Emery's like. It's a plan for every game. It's not like a set tactic like we've seen before under the last manager, like where it's set and that's it. It's rigid. It's closed. It's a closed shop. It's like you're playing there. That's your role. It's not like that under Emery. It's so fluid and versatile. And I think we'll see. We need a loading of options because we've just reeled off a few games there, and we look United, the West Hams, the Liverpools, the Brentfords, and little details, man. That West Ham 1-1. If we had that wide, man, we would have got them 3 points, wouldn't we? No doubt about it, I think. And it's just Emery didn't have the armour on the bench to change it. We could all see where it needs changing, and Emery will know exactly what he wants. And there has been times when the squad was very light, and we do need to add that quality now. And I think you've got to give it him because he showed all the signs last season of how good a manager he is and how switched on he is tactically. And we've just got to have the tools now. Give him the tools and he's going to do a superb job.
He'll do the damage. Right, so let's move on to the youth players then. So it was an important season for a couple of youth players, in my opinion. Like, it was one where they needed loans to have game time because it wasn't the right moment to keep an Irabunan, an Archer, and Aaron Ramsey at Villa because we couldn't offer them the game time. But I do think this season is slightly different because we have more games, more cup games, and I think a couple of them, 2 of them, potentially could be ready to make Premier League appearances. So what I mean by this is I've got 3 that I think are my standout 3, and I would be more than happy with keeping Irabunan. I think Emery would like to have a look at him and get his hands on him. Cameron Archer, I think, again, could easily stay at Villa next season. And Aaron Ramsey. I think there's a couple that I think I'd like to see go out on loan, like Caden Young, Feeney, etc. So what do we think about the ones that could potentially stay at Villa and do a job? Do we think that Anira Boonan's ready? Because last season, that loan period there, we'd have learnt so much at QPR. Same as Archer, like he's had numerous loan moves now, and we know what he can do. We don't need to send Cameron Archer on loan to see what he can do. We know that now. The kid can score goals. So is it a time now where we look at someone like Archer and say, you're staying here now? Because I just don't think keep loaning him out. What's that going to achieve? Do you know what I mean? Like, we've either got to stay or keep him.
I think that the whole point in these loans at their ages is to go and give them a proper taste of first team football, and then our loan manager goes out and assesses them and then feeds back to the club. Yes, I think they're good enough, and bring them back and we'll give them a go. Or no, they're not good enough. We'll just sell them. That's the whole point of them, isn't it? And for me, as we saw this time last year with our pre-season predictions, and I went big on Kane Kessler-Hayden, he was the next big thing last summer, wasn't he? And he has disappeared off the planet, hasn't he? Really, his stock has fallen really heavily, and that can happen at these ages. They're not the finished article. That jump from under 21s to the first team is a huge jump, and there isn't many players over the last few seasons that have made that jump and made it look comfortable. Jack did it. Jacob Ramsey's made it look easy. He's comfortably a first team footballer now. And out of the ones that we've got, and we've got high hopes for, some of them it won't happen for them. And one or two, there's less likely that it's far less likely to get, there's less players that will come through and do well than we think. I've seen tons over my time watching Villa that I've all thought they're going to be the next big thing, and they've just disappeared without trace. So we have, as a 3, we've been down a lot, which is something I hope to do again next year, to see these under 21s, because it's a great indicator of where the club is at. We've got Omari Kellerman, who we all like. Yeah. I'd like to see him get a loan.
By the way, Villa fans, like us 3, we've been going down Bodymore from watching these youth players. And Omari Kellerman, for us, is the one to watch, because I think he's bloody brilliant. When you watch a player, right, And you see the way he just glides and his awareness and his finishing. For me, when I'm watching Kellyman, he looks a level above the forward line, I think, of what we've currently got. I think, if we're touching on the players, then for me, Feeney, I think he's going to be a fantastic centre half. I think once he sort of grows a bit more, he looks about 6 foot, but I think once he grows out a little bit more, I think he will just go up another level. But for me, the two, Feeney and Kellyman, and Tommy O'Reilly,
I
I'd
was going to say
say
I like
are the
Tommy
ones.
O'Reilly. I like Swinkles as well. I think he's injured at the moment, and I have to mention him, Todd, my mate Todd Alcock, who I think he's got a reasonable chance as well. So we have got some good players, but it's a big summer for these kids, and they will be in and around it in pre-season, and because of what we do next season, it's going to be that European qualification has meant that we will keep some of these players around 100%. It will take a bit of pressure off the amount of players possibly we have to sign. We might be able to go after more quality instead of quantity. But we've got some very, very talented players, and hopefully we'll see them getting used a bit more at Villa. And if they're not going to be used, then some of them might be shipped on for half decent money now as well. That's another good thing you have to think of, is getting good money for these academy prospects.
It's the lads you just touched on there. That's the next wave, isn't it? I think most of them lads are now going to be looking for a loan move. Is it Jedinak? Jedinak's our loan manager.
Yeah, Jedinak's the loan manager.
Be knocking on his door as well, because you've got Rory Wilson as well that's banging in goals. But I think they just need that physicality step up now for them lads. Yeah. And the likes of Cam Archer now, for me, what is he now? 22, 23, possibly even 24. He's reached that level now where it's either sell or you're in the first team. Because like Luke says, spot on, mate. Absolutely spot on. What is the point in loaning him out to another championship club? His stock now is at its highest it's ever been. So what you're looking at? Probably 15 to 20 million, maybe? Would you find a championship club willing to pay 15, that? Because he would, in the right team, the right
21.
Setup,
He's only 21.
So he's the type of player that can fire to the Premier League. So a £15 million investment, he's spot on. And Irabunan, again, Luke, spot on, mate. I think he's had a turbulent season at QPR, but he's still shone. And I always thought of him as like a deep-lying, ball-winning midfielder, but he's not, man. He's been playing in attacking, advanced roles, driving with the ball. I still think there's plenty to learn from, but who else would you want to be learning from? Aaron Ramsey as well showed signs this season. It's just a shame that he had such injury problems, because Norwich and Middlesbrough again scoring goals, and he's proved he's quite capable of a championship player. So you've even got the likes of Finn Azad's coming back as well. You never know, he might even just make a breakthrough. So it's a big opportunity for these lads. And you'd hate to say that time's running out for some of them to make an impact and get into this Villa squad.
Yeah. Because if they don't do it quickly now and they don't make an impact, and they will have to make an impact, then they will be shipped on. We cannot hang about for these. We're not a championship club now that's hoping to blood a few players. They've got to come in and they've got to hit the ground running straight away. Otherwise, I think that'll be it.
Yeah, and I always remember the philosophy at the start when Purslow was saying, like, why have we got 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds playing under 23s football? We don't want that. We want 17, 18-year-olds playing it, stepping up. So that sort of always sticks around in the thoughts.
Yeah, and I think it's about, if they're going out on loan, and I can understand sometimes not every loan works, like it just doesn't work, does it? But, I'm looking at someone like Kane Kesler-Hayden, where, he was doing really well at Huddersfield early on last season. And then for whatever reason, he gets sort of sent back to Villa. And then he's playing sort of like under 23s footballs for like 6 months. Like, that's not the right progression of what he needs for his career at this moment in time. Like, he shouldn't be playing under 23s football. So
look at him. It was Swindon when he went to Swindon, had a brilliant low there. They played Man City in the Cup. He was awesome. He was awesome. And then when we started going down Bodymore Heath at the back end of last season, he'd just come back. His loan move got terminated from Huddersfield. I think they signed Matty Lowton, of all players. So then, they had cover at right back, so he got sent back. And like you were saying with Kellerman, where Kellerman, he just like graced that pitch. You could just see he was levels above everyone. And that's what I was expecting when I seen Kane Kessler-Hayden. I thought, you know what, he's just going to stand out. He's going to be completely at another level compared to these players. And he just wasn't. He just wasn't. So, yeah, big summer for him as well, really.
I think I see. Whenever I watch him, I really like his thinking. Like, he's really forward thinking. He gets on the ball, and the first thing he thinks of is going forward. And I remember being at an under-23 game, and I think it was the Stoke game, and I heard the Stoke manager shouting like, he just can't defend. He can't defend. Like, attack him, he can't. And honestly, it's so true. Like, I see people now, like, because Young's gone, on Twitter saying, right, it's Kane Kessler-Hayden time, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's not.
Well,
He's
that
not,
right back position isn't suited for an attacking fullback, is it? That's not the way we play. So even his attributes and everything, at the minute, it's just not suited to the first team attributes of the right back.
Yeah. So I think he needs to get his head down and sort it out really. So let's have a look at. I've wrote a list here of players that we could potentially sell. So here's my sell
out list.
Out the door. Right.
I've wrote one as well.
I've got six.
I've got 6, but I think they're too easy. So I'm going with Olsen.
I've got 9.
Olsen,
yeah.
Now, talking about Olsen and talking about the keeper, we cannot have a keeper that is like completely different to the one that we've got. Do you know what I mean? Like, when he came on at Brentford, like, my heart sank away at Brentford when I saw him coming on, because he just can't play with his feet. And unfortunately, Martinez hasn't been injured this season at all. So the chances of him maybe picking up an injury next season, I'd say, are pretty high. So
I'd only keep Olsen if he was prepared to be third choice.
Yeah,
because we do need a decent stock of keepers. I think Ryan alluded to that at the start. I think if you had Emery, another keeper who was a good backup to Emery, Olsen and Sinisalo, that's a good 4 for me.
Yeah.
But I would sell him.
But that Brentford game, I don't even think it sent shivers down the defence as well.
Shivers down everybody's spine.
Yeah, we just looked really uncomfortable. Yeah. It's like the players didn't trust him. And when you don't want that, do you? You do not.
Okay, so we're all selling Olsen then.
But the thing is, right, to be fair, he did have a really good game at Spurs away, I think.
Yeah.
I think he was really good at Spurs away. But my thinking is, when he comes
a great
on
third choice
and he starts hoofballing it, and we don't play hoofball.
Yeah, don't fit the
our game plan is literally out the window when he comes on the pitch because he can't pass. So I think Olsen's got to go. Sanson has got to be sold.
Yeah.
Nakamba has got to be sold. Wesley has got to be loaned, because I don't think anyone would buy Wesley.
But I think they could give him away.
Yeah, it'll be a freebie on it.
Traore has got to be sold because he's
only got 1 year left in his contract.
So we've got to get something. Yeah. And I've gone Keenan Davis.
Yeah, he's got 1 year left as well.
So Courtney House as well.
Yeah,
I've got
to go. Who else you got, Justin?
Well, I had Young and Steer, who obviously have already gone. Traore, Nakamba, Davis, Wesley, Sanson, House, and Olsen.
Yeah, I've wrote 3 young players I'd get rid of as well. So I've wrote down Finn Azaz. I don't think. I really don't think he'll ever play.
Finn that really intrigues me. Because he literally goes under the radar every single time. Whenever the kids are spoke about, no one talks about him. Whenever loan players that are out on loan get to talk about, no one ever talks about him. Yet he's probably had the best loan of everyone last summer. He absolutely blitzed it at Plymouth. They got promotion. They absolutely love him. He scored goals. He got assists. He looked incredible. So I don't know.
Do you
I
think
don't
it's
even
his
know
age? Do you think because he's
Yeah.
22? He's
And
22.
Yeah, I think
he's 22 and he's playing in League Two.
Yeah,
Mm.
I don't know. He might.
That's
You know,
the
who
problem.
knows?
How old's Dougie? Dougie's what, 22, isn't he?
23, I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I get it. Yeah.
So, but you never know.
no,
You never know. And it's like a Jamie
Yeah.
Vardy, isn't it? Where he burst. Look, some players are just late bloomers. It's like Moreno. He didn't really get going till he's 22, 23. So,
But Azaz
you
looks
just
like he's
never
got
know.
something. Do you know
He
what I mean?
does.
I don't know why.
His
I don't know why.
physicality as well. He's a tall
Yeah,
lad.
he's
He's
good
strong.
size.
He's a strong
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
It's just whether he's just got that quality to. I think he's definitely going to have a professional career. You know,
Yes.
Championship, League One, whatever. But you just never know. If he gets that chance and he takes it. I think he played a couple of pre-season games, didn't he? I know he scored against Warsaw and he scored against somebody else for Villa, and then he was out to Plymouth then straight after that. So
I mean,
who knows,
staying on the youth thing as well. Isn't it weird how a fan can perceive our opinion on certain players? Because we've been going down to Bodymore, and like I would say, Reiki had probably a 7 out of 10 performance every single game. Like he was never bad. He was never amazing. He was pretty consistently good every time I watched him, and Villa released him. And I think that's quite, interesting even in itself, that someone that you watch and you think he's actually all right. Villa just...
Well, it'd be interesting to see where he ends up, because he's a good technical footballer, but they obviously didn't see a pathway for him, so that was it, wasn't it?
Yeah. Cool. Right, we'll finish on
Inquiries.
players. So
I've got about 300.
My number one, who I would absolutely love, would be Nico Williams from Bilbao. I want some speed. I do. I want pace. I want power. I want it all from my new, nice, shining winger that we're going to get. I've also wrote down Goncalves because I think he'd be brilliant. I think the Ferran Torres thing would be done now. Almani's not coming. We were linked in January, interestingly, with Dumfries at right back. I think that mould would be the right sort of mould that we're looking at. Or a centre-back. I think that would be another area. Kang In Lee, I think he'd be a good one. Energy vibes, I think he'd be good. I've wrote down the one that we went for in January. Now, this would be a bit of a dream. But João Felix, I really like the look of him. I thought he was tremendous in some of the games I saw for Chelsea in a poor side. And then striker-wise, I'd love to know thoughts from the fans, really, because I really struggle with this one, because it's like the Harry Kane thing, isn't it, with the striker? Does a striker come in knowing that they're going to be like second fiddle to Watkins, if that makes sense?
I think we are signing a striker that's going to come and battle it out to be first choice. Question. No question.
Or play with or alongside as well.
They're coming in to battle it out to be first choice, 100%.
Really?
We're going all guns blazing up top for me.
Who's your name?
Well, I did this 3 ways. I did one set of players to buy, who were like whatever. I went through all the free transfers available. Of course, some really interesting free transfers. So I think we are very good at that now, at picking out a free. And then I looked at the 3 relegated clubs and what kind of players that we could maybe nick from them. So my free transfers, I've narrowed it down to Marcus Thuram, Yuri Tielemans, Rabiot. I think he's going somewhere there. I think that's been done. Wilfried Zaha's out of contract. N'Golo Kante at 32 is an interesting one.
I can't imagine can't say it, the Villa.
I'm just saying, as an interesting one, because it would add a lot of value to our sixes, and he wouldn't necessarily come in expecting to play, and it'd be good with a big season with lots of games. A really experienced player, and Naby Keita from Liverpool, who's only 28, who's got a lot of quality. I've narrowed it down to those three. I'm not saying we're going to get any of them. Tielemans is the standout one, obviously, and then from the relegated clubs, I really like Livramento at Southampton, the right back, the young kid, he's only 20. Ward-Prowse is going to be on a lot of people's lips. Is it Lavia, the winger, the defensive midfielder?
He's classy.
Yes, 19. A lot of clubs are going to be sniffing around him. So Leeds, there's only one from Leeds I'll probably touch, and I love that Nonto. I think he's a real unpolished diamond. If we could get him.
What about Tyler Adams?
No, wouldn't touch anyone else from
Don't
Leeds.
rate him. I'll really rate him.
He's all right. He's all right. Look at Weston McKennie. We were all linked with him for years, and he went to Leeds and was awful. And then Leicester, already mentioned Tielemans. Maddison obviously cost a lot of money. A lot of clubs are going to be after him. And then Harvey Barnes. So those are a few from those. But going on to signings money-wise, keeper-wise, I like Fraser Forster from Spurs. I think he'd be a really good number 2 for us. I mentioned Livramento. Is it Josko Gvardo? He's a Croatian centre-half from Leipzig. What I've seen of him, love him. Pau Torres as well, Villarreal, looked at him. That, be a good signing. Goncalves, is it you've mentioned? Is he centre mid, sets number 6 or 8, is he? I don't know.
Yeah, plays in like Ramsey's position.
Yeah. Calvin Phillips at Man City. I think he's going to stay there, though. Was obviously linked with Dembele, Lo Celso at Villarreal, Brennan Johnson, Ferran Torres. Forward-wise, I narrowed it down to 4. Thuram on the free. Jay Felix, who you've mentioned. Vlahovic, who we was linked with, I think, in January. Tammy Abraham, shall I throw him into the mix?
Do you know what, right? I've got to say, Villa fans, can we stop this?
You're not having Tammy at all?
No, I just think that ship has like.
I know it's an easy link because of his links with us. I get that, but I think his links with the Smith era probably have weakened even more now with the go. Another interesting one. I've got 2 more for you. João Palhinha at Fulham, the centre mid. Yeah. Outstanding for them all season. Not sure we could get him at the moment because he's obviously done really well for them. And a little bit of an outsider for right back. I've heard possibly he might be up for leaving where he is currently. Kyle Walker at 32.
Yeah, that would be a cheeky.
That'd be a big signing, that would.
Yeah, you got a big list there, Justin.
Yeah. We've got a big summer ahead, lads. But I really would like Livramento. I'd love Ferran Torres. Someone like a Phillips or a Goncalves, outstanding. Pau Torres. There's lots. Harvey Barnes, Tielemans would be fantastic on a free. Outstanding for a free transfer.
Tielemans would be unreal. To be fair.
What about Wan-Bissaka? Anyone for Wan-Bissaka?
I know I've seen that link. I don't mind that. I don't mind that one, to be honest.
I think for our right back position, where they're not, because his main negativity to in his play is his forward, in the final third, which we don't really want that from our right back. And I was looking at him; he's very, very solid defensively, great on a 1-on-1.
I really love that Livramento. I do every time.
Livramento, Carl Walker-Peters as well has gone. He can play left and right. He's a very versatile player as well. But the more I think about it, and the more I look at him, Harvey Barnes, he just loves a goal against the Villa anyway. So you get him in claret and blue and start banging in there. But his goal contributions go under the radar. Like the last 4 years, he's in like the top 10 of like the top 5 European leagues. He's in between Foden and Neymar for goal contributions. So I think his stats back it up as well.
His form did drop off last season, I think, which obviously coincided with Leicester's awful drop. But what my thinking now is we've got such a good manager that basically gets the best out of whoever plays for him.
Yeah.
So you just look at his top level, his peak, and you got to think whoever comes in, that's the trajectory their career would hit. And a top quality Harvey Barnes is an England international, so for the right money, it would be a fantastic pickup.
Yeah, and I'm glad you two
and better than what we've got
as well. Because even though Chelsea were awful, they were dog shit last year, but he did stand out whenever I watched him. And I
He's a
think
quality footballer, isn't he?
You could have put like prime Messi and Ronaldo, prime. I'm talking prime in that team, and they would have looked bang average last season. So you did see his qualities, but all these sort of transfer links, they are fitting like a profile. Like Torres, Asensio. It's like that mold of player and them attributes. So I'll be happy with whoever Emery picks, man. To be fair, but I think there'll be a few curveballs that we don't know.
Yeah,
and,
I do as well.
few little players, a few little cheeky ones that no one's really ever heard of, and come in and we'll do our research and get bang excited about them. But I think Emery will have a couple up his sleeve that no one knows about.
Awesome, cool. So quite a long 50 minutes that is. So, we've gone into a bit of detail of the whole window, basically what we expect. So if it's anything like our season predictions, we'll be signing none of the players we've mentioned. Nakamba will be starting the first game next season with Sanson. And there we go. So, so hopefully you've enjoyed it. We're going to have some content coming out next week as well. So stay tuned for that, and hopefully the transfer links just keep on coming. So, up the Villa.
Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.